4, 5. Call the meeting in order. Minutes for review and approval. Regular meeting, October 20.
I'll move them. And then Kelly.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any additions, corrections, comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Finance Committee minutes, October 20th, 2020. I was there. John? No. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
There's a second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Comments, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, last night we had a public hearing on Omni Navitas solar, and I adjourned the public hearing is to let it continue on through today. Has there been any comments from last night till today?
No.
Okay, I'll leave it open until we get to the resolution then. Bills, communications, Taylor?
Hold on, before you go, who just joined us by phone? Who just called in? Is that Herb?
That's Kenny Wilson. No.
Hi, this is Herb Marshall.
There you go.
Hey Herb?
Aye, Herb.
Hi.
Sorry, go ahead.
We received a NICEAG payment for $141.46. That was paid online on October 26th. We have the pilot disbursements. The disbursements went out November 3rd. Union Springs ended up being Grover and B&W Diesel. And then Weedsport was Pace Trucking. Then we have the Abundant Solar Power public hearing notice bill from the citizen. That is in the amount of $59.69. And we have the Omni Navitas public hearing, which was $80.78. And then we also see we have the probes group for the Auburn DEC final engineering report. And their invoice that was due is $4,253.13.
Thank you. Motion to pay our bills?
Move it.
I'll move.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion on the bills? If no further discussion, all in favor of paying our bills?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Bills are paid. The report of the treasurer.
For the month of October, we have the gas revenue came at $13.80. We have the interest on the savings account that accrued $25.62 with a total income of $59.42. Then we have the industrial park electricity bill there was 2 payments in there that totaled $333.71. And then for the month, and net income was negative $274.29. At the bottom, you see we have the account listings of the balances. We see the restricted. The restricted included the pilot payments that were dispersed on November 3rd.
Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the treasurer. Is there any discussion on the report? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Carried. Unfinished business. Authorizing project resolution.
So I was expecting Joseph to be here. Also, you do see the pilot disbursement report in there, just things are coming in, that's about it. So this, we did have the public hearing for Omni Navitas last night in the Town of Niles. There was no public participation. There was some discussion between board members and Joseph Mendelson from Omni Navitas. I did run into Joan. She was the one who came in and locked the door last night, and she didn't have an issue with us doing what we need to do. She said that things seem to be moving along with the town just fine. Between this and another project, I guess they've got quite a few weird things going on, but she seemed pretty confident, or she seemed okay with this project.
Joan Jane?
Yep. And I said, you know, we're gonna go, like, if we go ahead and authorize what we need to do, they can finish up with you. She's like, yep. So, it seems like things are okay with the project, between the project and the town, despite some of the concerns that were mentioned last night. I guess going through the public hearing process for the town's permitting and the seeker, there were about 4 comments, a couple negative, a couple positive. The negative were around taking farmland out of production and concerns around the continuing trend to do this for solar projects. And then the positive was around the benefits of solar projects and the state's goal to meet renewable energy. So, but Joseph did mention that the farmer that is currently farming these 30 acres, the property owner has another 30 acres that farmer is going to start utilizing. So they're kind of offsetting it with a different space. They do have an agreement in place for the decommissioning. Were there any other key points from last night?
Cheap electricity around the area.
Oh yes, so they'll be distributing to the community at a lower rate within their load zone. I seem to remember there being a question about so they're on the edge of a load zone and they are in National Grid territory. So any of the National Grid customers can access their power, but anyone in the other load zone for NYSEG cannot. So there are some limitations in that way, but the local community would have access to this power. The other thing that I've been discussing with him is the local labor. He is requesting a waiver specifically for the framing installation. The manufacturer of the framing is out of Ohio and requires that they, for warranty reasons, use their own labor. So the thought would be to just exempt that particular portion of the labor from the policy. And he thinks that everything else he should be able to do within the policy, any of the electrical and site work and those types of things, he thinks he should be able to get locally. So he's just requesting that we pull that piece of the labor out of it. Unfortunately, it's a big part of the labor, but it's just under the warranty of the company, that's what's required.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
What do you guess the percentage of that labor is? 50%
Um,
or even more?
I think he said it was a 40-60 split. I want to say he said that 40% was the framing labor, but it could have been the 60%. It's one or the other, but it's sizable. It's a significant portion of the labor, but you know that company's going to bring in their own crews. So that's probably some bed tax.
Hey Tracy,
Yes, John.
does anybody else, any of the other projects ask for that type of waiver?
I'm trying to remember if Abundant had a waiver in place with their application. I think they also had a waiver in there as well for a piece of it.
Okay.
I forgot to ask last night, are these people getting the same benefits as the other ones? I know the last one we did, there was some additional benefits because they was providing power for county facilities, but are these people getting the same benefits as the other ones got?
These benefits are lined up, so the other one was also community solar. This one is also community solar and is of a, well, I know size doesn't matter, but of a similar size. They're substantially similar projects in terms of how the distribution will work, so we aligned this one with the last one. So it's the same as the Abundant deal, with it being a community solar project.
I would say that we could waive that labor one, but we would put in that their maintenance people have to come from the county.
Yeah, so when, Herb, correct me if I'm wrong, I think when we talked about this last night, he was going to try to source that maintenance from
That's what he said.
locally.
But going to try to don't mean anything. I think, if we're going to waive the other one, I think we should put in that the maintenance people have to come from the county.
I agree with her.
I will work with the lawyers on what that looks like logistically. Legally and logistically what that looks like, and if that's,
If we legally can do it, sure, I'll support it.
yeah. So I'll check with Justin on that.
Well, I guess I'm going to be reasonably firm that if that can't be done, then we do not waive the other one.
So if we cannot include a requirement to have the maintenance done locally, then we will not provide the local labor waiver for the framing, which is a warranty issue.
That's my opinion, but that's only me.
Okay.
I agree with you,
I did say last night that, at our annual New York Farm Bureau meeting coming up in December, there's gonna be a resolution that, whether it passes or not, that, for these type of installations, wind, solar, whatever, that it can't take good productive farmland to cite these type of projects on them.
What's the definition of good productive farmland?
I'll let you know,
Okay.
after we argue about it for a half an hour.
There's a lot of marginal ground too.
I know, I work a lot of it too.
Ray, is that a local resolution or is that a state resolution?
As John Patterson brought it up, so we have a resolutions meeting at the 23rd, Monday night. And
That's a local, that's local, not state, right?
he did not present it at our county annual meeting. He's going to present it at the resolutions meeting. It'll be, if it goes forward from the regional meeting, then it can make it onto the floor for that.
For the state?
Yes,
Oh, okay, I understand. This was a local one, but it's being presented to the state farm bureau.
yes, it'll be presented at the regional meeting to see if there's support enough to take it to the state.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I think like Ben brought up, there can't be a firm rule either way. Anyway, it's just a resolution, it's not a state law or nothing. Okay. How do you wanna handle this? Is there a motion to approve the resolution? Is Joe on?
He is not on. I don't know where he is.
Yeah, I'd move it.
There's a second.
I'll second it. Are we going to add some kind of amendment to it,
Well, it
or
was in
stipulation,
discussion.
or? Okay, I'll move it for discussion.
And then if Herbie or somebody wants to put an amendment, now you could move an amendment.
Okay. The motion's been made and seconded that we approve the authorizing resolution. Is there discussion?
Yeah, Ray, if that includes, what Herb said about the maintenance, local maintenance,
That can be added as an amendment to the motion.
okay.
make the amendment.
I'll second it.
No, wait a minute, now the amendment's gonna be that, that we require the company to use local maintenance people once the project is complete, provided that we can legally do it.
Now, is there a second?
I second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed to the amendment? The amendment's carried. Back to the original motion. We'll do a roll call vote, please, Taylor, excuse me.
Mr. Lattimore?
I can't hear you.
I don't think you heard me.
Mr. Lattimore?
Yes.
Mr. Vitale?
Yes.
Mr. Latnishan?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. Spino, she's absent. Mr. Reinfeld?
Yes.
Motion is carried. Thank you. Staff update.
So there are two main things that I wanted to discuss today. One is just a quick update on the sewer, because I know you care. The revised report did go to DEC. DEC did reach back out with some additional questions. Probst Group answered those questions and provided the additional information, and now we are again waiting on a final determination. Unless something came through today, things look good. It was primarily just clarification type stuff and dotting the T's, crossing the I's. Janine is here. I don't know if she has anything to add. I think she's been on a lot of these emails. But it does seem like DEC is reviewing it and going through the process. Probst Group did have a contractor go out and do some of the survey work, the topographic work that needed to be done, so that as soon as we have that determination, they can move forward with the finalized engineering and quoting, and getting bids. So they are trying to be queued up to make this happen as quickly as possible once we get those approvals. But to my knowledge at this moment, that's where we stand. And I recognize it is a high priority, and we are still trying to push things forward. I know Cayuga County's Water and Sewer Authority has been involved, Doug's been involved in working with DEC to try to move this forward as well. So it's been helpful to have some additional communication in the loop as well. Questions on the sewer?
There hasn't been any serious negatives from DEC, has there?
Not on the version that exists now, with the lower increase in the capacity to start. Once we get to the point where we're trying to get up to that 2 million gallons per day, that's when we're going to have to do a lot more of the testing. But in the version now, it seems like they're generally comfortable, and it's just understanding the numbers, the way they're engineered and the way they're calculated. Getting that support letter from the city to say, yes, we're comfortable with this. That's been my understanding. It's mostly that type of cleaning up the information and organizing it in a way that they need. It does, however, look like our best bet come this spring is going to be to do that Eagle Drive line first, just to get that additional capacity in. We might not be able to do that in conjunction with the force main. So it looks like we're kind of still heading back towards a separated approach, just because of the timing of it. And that Eagle Drive line would provide the capacity that's needed for this particular phase of CMI's expansion. So I don't know if Janine or Herb, you've heard anything else recently.
Doug reported that he had a meeting with the city to pass that on to them, but my understanding, I think through Doug, is that it's all one project, but we would have to do it in two different sections, and we would do this small section first,
Right.
And I hope that the engineering firm continues working, trying to finalize the approval for the whole project.
Yeah, so Chris has been very responsive to Jennifer. So he has been, there was a few days I was out and he was right on top of those emails and, responding to her requests. Janine, I saw you unmuted for a second.
What Herb was saying was what was reported to our board last month. Certainly I've seen all the information that's come through and all the responses, that went into DEC, and I've not heard anything since. I think that was like last week, Tracy?
Yeah, last week or the week before, yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like we can have a solution, even if it's an interim solution for CMI. Even if this is still, this whole DEC approval is still kind of up in the air or takes longer than we need it to in order to get the whole, both phases of that project done, that in term of just doing that small pipe would be sufficient to at least get their expansion up and running. So I think we have a solution one way or another for them. I hope. And that's a piece I don't think we need DEC approval for, quite frankly. That can go into the existing gravity line. So it's within the capacity of that gravity line. It's that pipe that is the pinch point. So I think that's something that we can do without much fanfare. So that's where we are with the sewer. The other thing is,
Thank you.
yep. The other thing, oh, go ahead.
When do you anticipate the DEC wrapping up, or God only knows?
When the last round of information that went to Jennifer, it sounded like she was planning on a week, within a week. We're probably right around that point now, give or take.
Too bad then.
So hopefully soon.
And then hopefully that's the last.
Hopefully that's it, yeah.
Before.
Right. So the other piece of this or the other thing I wanted to run by the group tonight, I don't know if you recall, late last year and early this year, the Resiliency Economic Development Initiative, which was for communities affected by flooding on Lake Ontario. There were some grant funds awarded to projects within communities on the lake, including Fairhaven and Sterling. There's a handful of projects in Cayuga County. These particular grant funds will fund up to 50% of the project, but they also require a 10% local match, which is a weird thing to do. I guess they've done this in the past, but the local match can't come from the project. It has to come from a municipality, an IDA, a local agency, some sort of community support it's supposed to show. I gather there is a waiver process for this, but they have to show that, they've attempted to get a local match and they could not for some extenuating circumstance. So one way to meet this 10% local match is through IDA incentives, both through sales and use tax exemptions, mortgage recording tax abatements, and if we reduce our fees at all, that would go towards that local match component. One thing that some IDAs are doing is creating a streamlined application process for these projects specifically, in terms of saying, okay, we'll do sales and use tax and mortgage recording only. We're not going to talk pilots unless the project warrants it in its own regard. So putting together kind of a small project application specific to ready projects with their own fee structure to help provide this local match. We've heard from one project so far that's looking for this local match, but I suspect there will be others. And this project is only a $200,000 project, so it doesn't even meet the minimum standards that we have in place right now, which is why we would need to part of why we would need to set up a special program for these projects.
What are their projects? What are they?
So they're like marinas, building seawalls or replacing docks, or restoring some of their property that was flooded and those types of things. If they had damage to buildings, maybe renovating buildings. So it's mostly, there are some community projects, but we would be dealing with business projects. I think there's only a handful of them. Some of the challenges will be the retail exemption. So like marinas would be considered retail under IDA law in most cases, and we would have to find a way to justify doing a retail project under IDA law. So we'd need to look at each project and see if we could use the tourism exemption or whatnot.
It's not unreasonable for people getting 90% of the money to put in 10% of the cost of the project, though.
No, so, I'm sorry, just to clarify, the grant is 50%. The owner puts in 40%.
I thought you said it was tiny and fast.
The 10% is only, it requires a quote-unquote, what they're calling a local match, and that 10% has to come from the community. The 40% between the grant and that 10% local match is coming from the owner.
I see, okay.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
So if we're open to this, at least this concept, Justin was just pulled into doing this in Jefferson County too, so I'll work with him to put together a sample for next month, and we can bring it back to do any approvals that need to be done or discuss the actual logistics of it when we figure out how to work through these retail issues and that kind of stuff. But I didn't want to put together a whole program without talking to you first about doing this. We don't do a lot of work in that part of the county, so I think it's also a good outreach point too.
It'd be a good image,
Yeah, I think anything we can do to help them.
yeah.
They got beat up pretty good.
We can
Over
create
and over
fees
again.
then, we can create fees and then forego them.
Okay, so pleases the board, we'll bring an example next month to look at for these projects and try to move it forward. Taylor and I were in an IDA training all day today. It was good fun. New York State Economic Development Council did their fall IDA Academy, and there was a compliance training in the morning. There was some discussion of proposed legislation around IDA law. Nothing that is actually passed at this point, but just what's proposed. Same scary things that come up all the time. Some pretty comprehensive proposals as well. Some proposals to bring back civic facilities and powers to allow grants and loans more generally, but then also prevailing wage is on the table. So a lot of some administrative things. So there's a whole section about proposed policies, what some communities are doing around recovery, just a series of panels. I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
Then we went over, COVID. They had a brief discussion on COVID, what to expect, how they're looking at. It's like a couple years to watch this expand out. Don't be prepared for it to go away right now.
Yeah, so that was fun. Thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And then CETA's working through the county budget process and Ways and Means tonight. And other than that, Meg started, so I forgot, she started since our last meeting. We did hire a new business development specialist. Her name is Meg Golub. She'll be working with entrepreneurs and small businesses. She lives in Ledyard and has been a SCORE mentor. She has a long career in all sorts of business management and consulting, has owned a couple of businesses, so she's got a lot of experience that she brings to the table, and she's kind of a natural teacher and mentor, so she'll fit, I think, very well into this position. She has hit the ground running because she already has relationships with businesses in the community, and we are excited to have her. So we'll make sure she makes it to a meeting so you can meet her. And she started last week? Last Wednesday. So she's a week in and she's already part of the team. Full part of the team. So that's the other big news from CETA. There's a couple other programming things, but they're more relevant in the city. So I'm good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Did anyone look into the land acquisition we talked about last month?
Danny's still trying to track down a good contact for that.
New business.
Oh, so normally in December, we have our annual meeting. It's usually a lunch. So I just wanted to, as we always do this time of year, talk about how, if you would like to do something for an annual meeting next month, or just have it at our normal time in our normal format, as opposed to having a luncheon. So, up to
You
you.
mean not have a lecture?
It's up to you. We could schedule a luncheon. It would be very hard to do remotely.
Who's on the nominating committee? Myself and
It's,
John?
it's
right?
usually, yep, it's usually Herb, John, and Gina.
Okay, we can meet before that time, no matter how we have to handle it.
Yep.
We can meet by phone, the three of us. And I think we kind of need to wait till we get closer to there before we decide what to do. I agree.
Yeah, so it's, next month's meeting is December 15th. Do you want us to kind of send out an email maybe December 1st and just see how things are looking?
I would think so.
We can do a luncheon, we can do it like in North or South Carolina. Be outside, maybe a southern barbecue.
Okay.
Before we do the nominating, whose terms are up this year?
I would have to look. I don't know.
I would think it would be time for us to officially recommend, them being, now, I shouldn't be saying that because it may be me, but whoever it is, it should be time for us to address that.
Yep, so that's usually part of that nominating discussion. And then we usually talk about it at the full board too, of who we want to recommend to the
We
legislature.
usually do it before then because it's a good idea to know who's going to be on the board before we select who's going to be chairman.
I mean, the last few years, we've made the recommendation to the legislature in December.
I thought it was November.
So,
They haven't appointed anybody until way after the first of the year.
yeah, I don't think we had actually ended up on an agenda at the legislature until January last year.
Okay, just let's have that available for December.
Yes, I will. So when we reach out to get something scheduled with the nominating committee, we'll include the names of who is up for reappointment or whose terms are up.
Can Taylor find out on her computer?
Yeah, probably. I would have to know how to direct her to find it, which is questionable.
Ah!
Oh, I can't do it there because I'm streaming. It would be in board members, probably appointments. It's whoever didn't get appointed last year.
December minutes, you can probably figure it out too.
We traditionally had it at Spreadside, and there's plenty of room to spread that people out.
Well, that was the other thing I was thinking, is we could order out, have meals come in, and we.
Okay. So terms up this year are Ray, Andy, John, and Paul. So those are the four that are ending their terms at the end of this year.
If it's not too early, I would move that we recommend the four of them for reappointment.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Now's your chance if you want to bail out. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank
Okay.
you, Herb.
Thanks.
And the nominating committee.
So, maybe.
Well, nominating
the
is off.
legislature is a little early.
Yeah, I'll add it to my agenda for this month, and then they can, I don't suspect they will do it this month, but they can put it in when they're ready to. The other thing is, so we'll follow up December 1st about the timing of the annual meeting, and we'll follow up with Herb, Gina, and John to schedule a nominating committee before then. And we'll send the reappointment recommendation to the legislature. The other new business is self-evaluation forms are in your packet. We do these annually, so please fill them out and return them. You can return them by email, you can mail them, you can drop them off, whatever you want to do. But we'd like to have these by the end of the year, and the governance committee will review them in January at their meeting. So that's just a heads up. We will be counting. We'd like to have them all. We have one. It's a good start. And then we don't have any upcoming events.
Life's pretty boring, huh?
Hard to believe, isn't it?
It's never happened before, but we don't have any upcoming events.
I take that as probably not a good thing, though.
No, not at all. We may have some more educational seminars coming up, but as of right now, we do not have anything on the calendar.
Not a lot of travel expenses.
No, our travel budget is in great shape.
Rick, is there any need for executive session?
Not to my knowledge.
Trace?
If not, I'll move to adjourn, and, Tracy will get a hold of the nominating committee to set up that meeting.
There a second?
Yep, we got
All in
John.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, we're adjourned.
Great, thank you, everybody.
Those are gonna